Hello and welcome to our match reaction here at Mike United. I did watch the whole 90 minutes, as some of you will have, some of you won't. Obviously, I'm off work this week. A lot of people are in work and can't make these awkward kick-off times for pre-season games. Um, I have got my notes down in front of me. I have made a lot of notes. As any of you who's watched my videos will know, I can ramble quite a bit. I obviously do the same in making notes. I'm feeling like I should have just done a watch along, but I don't really have enough followers, subscribers, that kind of thing to go live. It would just be me moaning at the TV for passes not made for 90 minutes. So maybe I'll save that for when the season starts or when I've got a few more followers. But basically, going into the game, as the team news was kind of the same as I said yesterday. I said I wasn't sure if Varane would be back and Garner should be in the squad. On both counts, neither player was in the squad at all. Not sure what's wrong with Garner. Varane, we know, had a little injury problem, but we were expecting him to be back. It could not be an injury thing at all. It could just be not wanting to rush them back, or maybe they're starting on Saturday against Aston Villa. But they weren't in the squad. It was pretty much the lineup you would have expected. A lot of people might have had Shaw to start over Malacia, but Malacia did start. The rest of the lineup was Maguire and Lindelof. Dalot at right back, who has been playing more than Wan-Bissaka. McTominay and Fred in midfield. Bruno just ahead of them. And Rashford, Martial and Sancho left to right. I want to start from the back and work all the way forward because the first half was good. The first 15 minutes of the second half was even better. And then the final half hour kind of tapered off a little bit disappointing, but we'll get to that. To start with, De Gea, especially in the first half, any saves he had to make, he made. There was only one really decent chance that they had, I think, and that was, I believe his name is pronounced Rakisaki, which I'm sure that the newspapers will have will just have a great time coming up with little puns to go with his name if he does make it all the way playing for Palace or even a bigger team. No disrespect. He was quite a skillful player. They have got quite a few good youngsters, this Palace team, who came on and did well. They did better than some of the senior players. Rakisaki was one of them. He did start the game. He did very well, very skillful. Gave our defenders a few problems, as did the guy I mentioned yesterday, Malcolm Holloway. I heard the commentators watching the game saying his name 3 or 4 different ways. So if any of you know how it's actually pronounced, I'd be very happy to learn. I have watched videos pronouncing it, and even they pronounce it differently. So for now, we'll just call him Malcolm. He did really well. He also quite a few times had a piece of skill that gave him a bit of time or got him away from a player. I think the only real chance he had, he kind of dragged it wide a little bit. It looked like De Gea had it covered. In front of De Gea, Maguire I thought was excellent. He had Mateta and Ayew to deal with, who, nobody's going to say they're top Premiership opposition for defenders, but they can be tricky. They can score a goal here or there. They can be a nuisance. Maguire dealt with them excellently. At one point, it looked like Maguire might dive in on Ayew, who can be quite tricky with the ball at his feet. He didn't. He stood him up, allowed him to knock the ball past him, and just calmly shepherded the ball out. Maguire of last year, or at his lowest times, would have dived in blind and missed the ball, and the player would have been through. He did very well. Not just that, but throughout the first half especially, he was everywhere. Every ball that came over the top, he was getting his head to it. Every ball that was going through, if he wasn't blocking the pass, he was holding the forward off and stopping them getting a shot away. A really, really good game from him. Lindelof was decent. You just didn't see much of him. Maguire was doing that kind of dirty work. Excuse me. Whereas Lindelof was kind of sweeping things up, reading the play. They worked really well today, and if they can work that kind of way against lower Premiership teams outside the top 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, then I wouldn't mind them too much. But as we've seen, when it comes to actual games, it can be quite different. And Crystal Palace were missing the majority of their attacking players and midfield. Zaha, Elise, Eze were all out of the squad. And then midfield, the only senior player they kind of have is Milivojevic, who did start the game, surrounded by two names I've never heard of before. Sorry, Malcolm, as mentioned, did play. Dalot was very, very good. Defensively, he did better. Attacking wise, same as ever. He got forward, he got crosses in. He was always looking to take on the opposition left back. And Malacia, I think, it's been his best game. I suppose it has been his best game, but basically he's played three halves. And this was the best half I've seen of him so far. Getting on the ball a lot more, looked a lot more confident, running with the ball, getting forward, and still defensively sound. So I'm very happy with his contribution today. It was actually Malacia's right-footed ball to Dalot. Each were on either corner of the box for Malacia to pass to Dalot. Dalot took it down well and got his cross into Martial, who chested it down brilliantly. The ball was coming at an angle kind of behind him, and he kind of chested it on the turn and scored with a volley. Very good goal. It should have been his second. He was actually put through by Fred before that, and shot just kind of to the side of Butland, who actually turned away as he made the save, but his hand did block the save and resulted in an injury, which he went off after 14 minutes due to that injury. And the keeper that came on, what was his name now? I have written it down. Where did I put it? I'll get to it. But yeah, basically Martial inadvertently injured Butland, making the first save. Scored the goal against what is, I've been told, a new goalkeeper signing. So it wasn't Vincent Gaeta that came on, who many expected. It was who is essentially their third choice now. He did make a couple of decent saves. I'm not sure how old he is. He looked quite a bit younger than Butland and Gaeta. But Martial scored that goal against him, the very well taken volley. And second half, was it second half or possibly in the first? The first half. Martial should have actually had a third goal, not only the one against Butland. This one's maybe been a little bit harsh to him. Rashford did brilliant on the left, chasing a ball down to the corner flag. One touch to control the ball and get back in position. And the second touch, he fizzed a wicked cross into the box that a few players struggled to get to. Martial was the closest at the back post, but just missed it. It would have been a tap-in if he'd got there. Maybe a bit unfair saying he should have had three, because he was busting a gut to get there. It wasn't what some people say typical Martial, a little bit lazy, not trying hard enough. As soon as Rashford got that ball, Martial started his run and was very close to getting there. He could have easily been coming away with 3 goals, is what I could say. Following that, going into the second half, there was only one change, McTominay for Donny van de Beek, which was great to see that these players played the next 15 minutes and continued well, if not better. They kind of took it up a gear and really took the game to Palace with 2 more goals. The second goal was, I believe it was Sancho. Sancho got the second goal. Was it? Wasn't it? Yes. It was. It wasn't. Yeah, I've just read on my notes. It was the wonder goal that I called it. The commentators didn't really make much of it. Again, it's pre-season. It's a depleted Palace team, and they did look tired. They did look frustrated. But straight from the second half, pretty much Donny was involved, which is great. We made a run forward, and we had 3 or 4 players running at Palace defenders. Sancho had the ball and he could have passed it to either Donny or Martial, who one was inside the full back, one was outside. He passed it. The pass looked like it was for Donny, but Martial got there first. And the keeper came out. Martial looked like he could take it around the keeper, but it was a very tight angle. Instead, he kind of I'm not sure if it was intentional or not. I'm going to say it was. He kind of passed the ball towards Donny rather than take it around the keeper. So then again, Donny could have had a shot from what was not as tight an angle as Martial, but still tight. But instead, he just played it behind two defenders that were running to get back on the line, to Rashford, who had a tap in. Now, maybe I've overdone it on my notes, but it was a wonderful, wonderful team goal. One touch from Martial, Donny, Rashford into the back of the net. It was very Wenger's Arsenal, Guardiola's Barcelona, even that 70s Cruyff team for Holland. Um, just playing the ball, stretching the defence, kind of teasing them in and around the box before a tap-in goal. It was a great goal. And like I say, while it's a depleted, tired, frustrated Palace team, these are the kind of plays and tactics and systems that the team has to do over and over again in training. So to see them doing it on the pitch is obviously a sign of good things. You'd rather see them doing this kind of thing than not doing it. If they're doing it in a pre-match game, pre-season game, if they're doing it in training, it is more likely that we'll see things like this happening in an actual Premiership game, or obviously Cup game. Martial again, brilliant around the defence straight after the goal. Rashford turned, played the ball to him. Martial around the defence, played the ball in towards Bruno and Donny. Bruno dummied it. Donny had a shot that was blocked. For the 15 minutes from the second half starting and the 60th minute substitutions, we could have scored 4 or 5 goals. We were just unreal. We were blowing Palace out the water. They didn't have a chance. The first chance they actually had was after our third goal. So our third goal, I've written again, was a beautiful goal. Rashford had a beautiful flick inside his own half, just to get away from his opposition fullback for a second. And at that point, you had Martial and Sancho both running from the halfway line, sprinting forward. Rashford passed the ball to Martial, so Martial slowed down, controlled the ball, passed it to Sancho straight away, at which point Sancho had got quite far forward. He maintained his run, which was great to see. Rather than slowing down and waiting for an option, he just kept running, stayed on side. Martial played him through. Sancho, with all the time in the world, then running towards the keeper. You could say pressure, but again, pre-season game, young keeper, simple finish. So Martial, Rashford, Sancho, front three, all three got a goal. You can't really say much better than that. Martial, 3 goals in 3 games. Important goals as well. This was the first goal today. So I'm really jumping on the hype train for Martial this year. I'm a big fan of Martial FC. I was gutted when it didn't work out last year. He went to Seville. I'm hoping that was a kind of a wake up call of how good he's got it at Man United and how well he can do. The commentators did say this is his 8th season with us this year, which is just crazy. I remember him coming in and that debut against Liverpool. 8th season with us. He's not a boy anymore. He's a man, and I think he's 26, 27. He should really be now pushing on and showing the world what he can do. And then this Ten Hag system, Ten Hag must have said to him, "Look, you're our striker." Sorry, I've got something in my teeth. Obviously, there's Ronaldo back home, but he's got to have said to Martial, "This is where you're going to be playing. Show me what you can do. I'm not scared to drop Ronaldo if you're getting the goals and playing well." Ronaldo, I would say Ronaldo must be kicking himself that he's not on the tour and fighting his corner. But if reports are to be believed, he's off to Atletico. I don't believe that. I think he's going to stay. But even though it's down to family reasons that he's off, he is not on the pre-season tour. Martial is, and Martial's doing what is expected of him. So surely Martial must be ahead of Ronaldo in the pecking order for the first game of the season at least. I suppose we'll see when the lads come back and the 2 games against Atletico on Saturday of next week, and Rayo Vallecano at Old Trafford on the Sunday. Well, I'm expecting Ronaldo to play one of those games and Martial to play the other, so we shall see. Other than that, the only real problem we had was a Palace corner. just before the substitutions were made, um, where it was a little bit scrappy trying to get the ball away around about 63 minutes. Palace actually played a ball over the top and scored. It looked offside from in real time, and I was a little bit annoyed that it was a bit scrappy. But when I watched it back, you could see that every player was forward, barring Dalot. And then before the ball was played, Dalot actually made the run forward, making three Palace players offside in the process. So a very good offside trap. Well done to Dalot. And when that ball was played over, the three of them were massively offside. The goal was scored, but obviously didn't count. Um, Directly after that were our substitutions. I think there was six. Was it six? 7 players coming on. The only player that stayed on was obviously Malacia from the first half, but Donny obviously stayed on. He came on at half time. So other than that, 8 players came on, which was Wan-Bissaka went to right back, Young, Will, Fish, and Tellez to centre back. Malacia obviously stayed at left back. Savage and Iqbal replaced Fred and McTominay. Hannibal came on up front, Ahmad on the right, and Alanga on the left. And Donny took the Bruno position. Donny kind of struggled from then on with the younger players in that number 10 position. He actually did better in the McTominay position, which is, could be telling for the season ahead. In that number 10, it might just be that he's playing with these younger players who might not be making the right decisions. Hannibal was being played as a striker. Well, he didn't do bad. He was chasing down every ball. He was always in kind of that number 9 position, if not just off to either side, kind of closing down his centre backs. But I think some of the younger players were maybe making the wrong decisions. Savage at one point turned and Alanga was through, and instead he played a pass that was misplaced and the ball went to Palace. Iqbal tried to get on the ball a couple of times, a couple of little runs and turns, but nothing really in it. Like I say, it looked like Donny was trying to do everything and getting nothing right once the senior players went off. Alanga would probably get a bit of a negative review for how he did, but there were 3 times I saw him running down the left in space and he wasn't found by Savage. I think Van der Beek was one, and I think another one might have been Ahmad, where Ahmad kind of turned and there was a ball through, but instead he kind of played it safe and played it back. Just before he did that and lost the ball, I was actually saying how well he looked like he was doing. He was chasing down the Palace fullback and centre back, not giving him a second. Him and Hannibal were pressing really hard, and when he did get the ball twice, he kind of turned, ran at the fullback, and he looked really skillful and really confident. But like I say, just after that, he started making a couple of mistakes, a little bit sloppy. I wrote in my notes that I think this is going to be his breakout year, and just how crisp he looked in that white away kit. But then he started making a few mistakes, so we'll see. I think he might just be ahead of Pellistri with what he can do on the pitch. He's a little bit more explosive, although Pellistri has got more senior games, I believe, with all the games he's had at Alaves the last 2 years, and obviously playing for Uruguay as many times as he has. Ahmad has played for the Ivory Coast a few times. But a point I wanted to make while I'm on that is that I do think this will be the breakout year for Ahmad. I reckon Pellistri is more likely to go out on loan to possibly the Championship. The Championship might be a little bit too physical for him just now. So more likely is possibly the Dutch League, which obviously Ten Hag knows well, or the German League, which both are closer to the Premiership than La Liga. Obviously the last 2 years spent on loan at La Liga will be helping him because of the language, the weather, a lot of South American and Spanish players obviously in La Liga, which will have helped him. Where I think now the next step in his development is going to a league that's a little bit tougher, a little bit closer to the Premiership, and seeing how he does. Maybe a slightly better team that can play more attacking play, but you can't really be massive choosers on that because he's at a certain level, and if he goes to the best teams on loan, he's not going to play. Remember what happened with Januzaj when he went to Dortmund. So we'll see what happens with that. As I say, the last kind of 25 minutes, half an hour with the younger players was a little bit scrappy, a little bit tepid. Not much happened. Hannibal had a shot from quite far out. There wasn't really any United chances, and obviously Palace did score. Um, from set pieces, we looked quite poor. Again, young players, and they're not as well drilled in set pieces, maybe. But the Palace players who were playing well were the young players. Kind of 9 or 10 young players made their way on around about 60 minutes, 70 minutes, and they did better than the senior players. It was them that scored the goal. I think they had 3 or 4 set pieces, and we struggled with all of them. The goal was actually Telles, who really didn't do well in an aerial challenge. Even though he's a left back, he was playing centre back, and that's how they got their goal. De Gea possibly could have done better, but he made a few good saves. So him not getting one right, it's going to happen. It happens to all keepers. Malacia eventually did go off around about 70-75 minutes for Ethan Laird, who played on the left for maybe 10 minutes, and he didn't look comfortable there. He looked shaky. Will Fish was very shaky. A couple of times the ball came to him and he miscontrolled it. Once it went out for a throw-in. A couple of passes didn't look right. A couple of clearances straight to Palace players. He's a young player. He's learning. I've got no problems with how he played. It's a pre-season game. That's what it's all about. He'll use his experience to push on. It's all about character, really. As I say, he looked shaky. He made a few mistakes, and then he did get sent off. So it didn't get any better for him. A poor touch led to a Palace player getting through, and as Fish went down, he pulled the player down with him. It was a sending off. It wasn't malicious. It wasn't dirty. It was just, it's a natural thing for defenders to do, to maybe stop the player having a chance, or you can claim it was half accidental. He did get sent off, and following that, Laird went to right back. Wan-Bissaka went centre back with Telles, and Anthony Elanga went left back. That was around about 85 minutes, I believe, and the last 5, 6, 7 minutes was just seeing the game out. We didn't really push forward. We just passed the ball around nicely, and finished the game 3-1. So 3 games, 2 of those against Premiership opposition. 11 goals scored, I think. 2 conceded. Again, the Melbourne victory game wasn't as easy as everyone thought it would be. We were 1-0 down, ended up winning 4-1. So, very positive signs. A lot of good performances today. Fred and McTominay did really well. There wasn't really a problem with them. There were a lot of fouls by the Palace players, especially Ayew and Mateta, I think, frustrated. Malacia, Fred, McTominay, Maguire, Sancho, Van de Beek all took quite a few late, quite hard challenges, and it was great to see them getting up and carrying on. Another point I wanted to make was their fitness and stamina looked really good. They were still running, still tracking back, and I'm including players like Rashford and Martial, who are known for maybe not doing that quite as much, and Bruno. They were all running back, tracking back and pressing when Palace was in possession, and they didn't stop making runs forward when we were in possession for the 63 minutes they were on. So a lot of positives, and I'm very much looking forward to the Villa game on Saturday, which I think will be a bit of a tougher test. We could even lose that game. It doesn't really matter the results. It's always nice to win, but we could lose that game. But what I'm looking for is a bit of a tougher test, and what we'll probably see is a lot closer to the team that will be starting against Brighton in a couple of weeks. Malacia or Shaw, Varane or Lindelof, depending on if Varane's fit. Hopefully Garner gets some minutes, as I said. The players that didn't get on the pitch today was Bailly, who's done really well on the tour. Luke Shaw, who it's known he's our first choice left back. Garnacho, who hasn't played a minute so far. Chong, who did well in the last game when he came on. And as I've mentioned, Palestri. So in the next game I would expect 2 or 3, maybe all 5 of those to get minutes. But we shall see. I'll be here to do a preview for the Villa game and a match reaction on Saturday as well. But there should be a few videos before that. We'll see what happens in terms of De Jong or other targets, Ronaldo, other players that could be leaving, Williams, Jones. There's a couple of others as well whose names escape me at the minute. Some that's on the tour, you know, Bailly, could he be leaving? Tellers, could he be leaving? If there's any news regarding that, that'll be in my videos. Again, I don't know how I've done it and managed to drag this out for 25 minutes. It's something I really need to work on. So thank you for sticking with me if you did. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.